Hello and welcome to the new episode of We Talk Talent Series Season 5, the show where we bring you insightful conversations with top HR leaders shaping the future of talent management. Today, we are joined by Manoj Patluri, Head Talent Acquisition, Hexagon R&D India. Manoj, welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Anmol. It's always a pleasure to be on this platform forums like this and exchange ideas, and a lot of takeaways also, I believe. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. So before we dive into the discussion, I would like to briefly introduce today's speaker to our viewers. Manoj is a seasoned HR leader with over 2 decades of experience in talent acquisition within the IT tech space, having worked with several IT MNC product and services company. As Hexagon R&D India, Manoj's role involves curating hiring strategies, ensuring Hexagon builds not just teams but high-performing tech powerhouses. So starting with my first question, Manoj, that the workplace has gone through a lot of changes over the past couple of years. So
Right.
how is your industry tackling the changes? And if you could share a brief overview with us.
Sure. I think great question, Anmol. I think the last couple of years are probably the little more than that. I think what we have seen because of the global pandemic, right? Which is actually had a lot of impact in the way change of perspectives, especially, right? If I were to actually talk about a few of them, right? It totally impacted the way we actually work at this point in time, right?
Okay.
We were talking about, remote work was something that was probably in the IT industry was talked about, but not at the scale as what we're actually looking at for the last couple of years. And then we have that as a continual, kind of a journey with a lot of IT companies having adopted that remote, work adoption. And we also with that, and then probably easing off the in that pandemic thingy effects of that, and then having the workforce come into the office for whatever reasons that works for an organization. I think we looked at hybrid, work models. We've looked at, various other work models for the, workforce. And the other most important thing is on the entire digital transformation part of it, right? We have seen, when the lockdown happened, and then we had no choice, but we needed to focus on the business continuity. But how do you do it sitting at home? So your tools, pretty much everything had to completely move to probably a cloud, and your virtual tools, your collaboration tools, and with that, especially when it came to probably the HR space, we had to look at how do we leverage HR tech, basically, right? What tools do we introduce? How do I get to interview my candidates? How do my panels interview my candidates, right? So quite a bit of change in the way that entire industry looked at the way we actually worked. And not just that, I think there are also the good outcomes of it, in terms of a lot of focus on the employee well-being, right? Some of the practices which were probably were there, but did not, probably was not the priority of the list, but that became immediate priority in terms of not just the physical well-being. Physical well-being was there because most of the offices had some kind of a gymnasium facility, or some kind of sporting facility and stuff. But I think what is more relevant in the times now is the mental well-being also, which came as a very, very important element for the employees to focus on. So as an organization, we also focused on quite a few of these. We were no different, but we started a lot of initiatives for the employee well-being, mental well-being. We introduced an app-based feature where employees can, get in touch with the counselor to discuss any of those, mental issues that they're actually, kind of facing. And also, I think from my perspective, the focus on the diversity and inclusion also as kind of emerged, because we see a lot of initiatives right now happening. But I think in a general sense, it has basically impacted the entire dynamics, and then I think we are a lot more evolved, shape in that sense.
Yeah. So Manoj, according to you and your industry demands, what type of skill shortage do you think is causing the talent war?
Right. I think very relevant to the talent acquisition space where I come from, and I represent Hexagon R&D India. I think again going back to the pandemic times, or even before that, there's always been a question of quantity versus quality, right? It's always been there, but I think with pandemic in the equation, I think that absolutely went to a different level altogether. With your cloud computing is an area where of course, with all the digital transformation happening, everybody working remotely now, organizations were looking at moving into a cloud platform, offering SaaS based services and things like that, right? Which I think drove the entire talent market with respect to what was the demand, right? And how much was the supply. So that is where I think the talent war, if I were to use that word, started. And and we saw a lot of surge in the kind of talent that companies like us operating the tech space wanted, because everybody was running after somebody who's very good on your cloud technologies, right? With that also, what we have seen is a lot of demand for your full stack development right now, even in that time, and then it continues as we speak, right? Because because of the times that we are in, and the focus for the technology industry of where we are actually heading. And the other one which comes to my mind is, of course, DevOps. A lot of talent on DevOps, because the way the companies were strategizing the entire your development operations, you would actually need that kind of a talent. And I think talent shortages were there, but the strategy was to actually, how do we kind of plan that in a proper sense, that you don't actually kind of be in the race, get beaten in the race, but how do you become a little self-sufficient in that sense? So quite initiatives at Hexagon also, where we started looking at building pipelines. How do we establish good relationships with the colleges and the institutions? And one of the things that we started doing is engaging very effectively with your the academia, basically, right? And one of the successful things that we've built, which I think came very handy during the the tougher times, was our internship program, right? A very successful and effective internship program, where it actually helped us with our talent pipelining to a greater extent. And of course, we did have to go to the market and kind of compete with a lot of them. But I think because of the changing skill demands and few other areas, I think it helped us quite a bit in that sense, right? And it is an evolving a kind of a thing for all of us as we speak as of today. It's evolving.
Absolutely. You're right. So as we delve into discussions on organizational strategies and their adaptation to the evolving employment landscape, I'm particularly interested in gaining insights into your employer branding strategy. Could you elaborate how your approach to employer branding has evolved over the past few years?
Yes. I think another great question. Thanks, Anmol. I think this is become even more relevant in the times that we are in terms of your employer branding sense, right? For us, it is not just one area, but it's a blend of our showcase of our technology that we actually work on, or the areas and the domain that we actually kind of work on. How do we impact what we say is solving real world problems, right? And of course, your diversity and inclusive, as we call it, as more of a diversity and acceptance here, right? Because we've coined it slightly differently, because acceptance is more relevant than inclusiveness. And also focusing on authentic storytelling, right? Because I think that's when you would have people probably connect when we are talking about our stories, and we are sharing our stories to the external world, right? And then also, again, innovation is a top thing for us, because we, being in the product space, showcasing that as one of the things that we strongly kind of advocate, that innovation is something that we always try to attract the creative minds and see what best comes out of it as a part of the culture. And of course, and then there's a lot of focus on diversity and acceptance, as is mentioned. There's been a lot of focus on that in terms of the kind of initiatives and the practices that we done. And of course, as a organization, there's a lot of focus on continuous learning also for the talent which is here. So I would say a lot of a mix of these, because which actually helps us with the entire employer branding strategy. And of course, when we're talking about authentic storytelling, which I actually mentioned, these are stories coming out of the employee sharing their journey, their experiences, as they spend time with us, not just the good ones, but also challenges and the triumphs, and the good ones, what came out of it and stuff, right? So I think in a way, that's again, as you speak, there is, when you're talking about employer branding, it is always again tied to how you would actually want you to be seen to the extent where it's always evolving. And because talent outside, Anmol, I'm sure you'll agree with me, and the talentscape or the technology landscape is always ever changing and pretty dynamic. So you got to be in the game, and it's ever kind of evolving. So that's work in progress, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
So, Manoj, now that the Gen Z is entering the workforce and born into the digital era, they bring a different set of expectations with them.
Yes.
So, what's your take on this, and how do you think that their expectations differ from those of the previous generations?
Right. So again, so this is being in the tech industry. This is one of the things that we've also taken a lot of notice on. And then how do we as an organization can embrace, right, the newer generation, because they come from different times. Of course, they're born into technology, pretty much, right? So I think they bring a lot of fresh perspectives, and as an organization, we're pretty open and welcome to the perspectives of such talent, right? We understand that these are pretty much purpose driven kind of a talent, right? They come from different times, right? And the flexibility matters for them, right? So so we have basically tied up in a sense that what is our vision, right? And then of course when we are talking about as an organization, as a culture, when we talk about what we showcase to the external world, right? These are pretty much nicely tied to their expectations, in a sense that they are looking for purpose-driven work, and then we pretty much as an organization kind of have that as a platform for them, because we would that is how we would actually want the talent to come in and have the purpose driven kind of focus in that sense. And they're also looking at a lot of constant learning, right, in that sense. And we do have platform for them where there are a lot of learning opportunities for them. Of course, we do have a online on demand subscription which is available to these folks, because we understand that these are very curious minds, right? And information to them, they're not wanting to wait for somebody to come and then tell them, but they're pretty much learning on their own, and from the era that we come. So so we provide those opportunities for them. And then while we realize that these guys come from a generation and get different perspectives, we've very recently had a reverse mentoring program for our leadership, right? We have run this very successfully. We chose our leadership team, and then we invited some of those fresh talent into the company from the Gen Z, that how they actually want to kind of sign up for this program. And there was a lot of enthusiasm to actually participate, right? And the outcome of that, of course, it carried on for a few weeks as a program, and the outcomes were fantastic. And then we did have a session where the leaders basically shared what they actually learned from as part of the reverse mentoring. I think the leaders came out of this program with a lot more fresher perspectives of what do these people, how do these guys think, what is their take on some of the things which is happening around the world in terms of technology, or for that matter social media, and a lot of good takeaways, I believe. So for us, we are pretty open, and we always welcome fresh perspectives, and especially from your Gen Zs. Of course, it's a welcome thing for us, and then we are happy to have them on board.
That's really interesting, Manoj. And so my last question to you, Manoj, is that you have been into this HR space now for over 2 decades, and you must have faced a lot of challenges.
Yes.
So what are some of the most prominent challenges that you face in this talent acquisition space, and what are your strategies to overcome them?
Right. So as I mentioned earlier, there's always competition for good talent, quality talent, right? Out in the market, right? That is one piece of it. The other thing that we look at is your evolving tech landscape in terms of emerging technologies. That means your skill demands are pretty much changing pretty much on a day-to-day basis, right? Because emerging technologies which are coming into the forefront, and there's always the demand and then the supply thing, right? So with respect to anything to do with your talent availability, or the how do I put it, is the shortage or the gap, right? Now, one of the things that we have already started doing is of course looking at the external market for your talent, right? That's an ongoing thing. And then we do have pretty nicely drawn process in terms of our evaluation, and how do we look at identifying good talent, and things like that. So talent shortages, as we look at, is going to be, it has been a problem in terms of the quality, right? It will continue to do that, but I hope things will get better as we progress and then as we evolve. But the other thing that we started focusing on is on how do we build alternative channels, right? For example, I did share with you earlier of how do we build those effective engagements and relationship with your campuses, because this is where your fresh talent is coming. And as part of our campus engagement, we do a lot of engagement with the student community. Go talk about us, what we do, so that there is this level of interest. And then our internship program is a great avenue for us, basically to kind of give them the opportunity to come and experience us, and it also gives us an opportunity for us to actually also look at how these the students who come and the internship with us are probably are able to kind of latch on to an area of their interest, and then how there is a mutual interest in them, right? And then end of the internship, we do convert a lot of them to full time. We give them a pre-placement offer and all that, right? So it's been working very nice. And beyond that also, I think engaging with the campuses, that's been one of our strategy. The other one is, of course, your upskilling and reskilling kind of a thing for your existing talent, because not everything can be from the external market. You need to look at how do you provide those avenues and opportunities for your existing talent also. Of course, I did share there's a very effective L&D team that we have, and there are a lot of programs, learning programs that keep happening, tech, non-tech, and things like that. And of course, employer branding, as I did share, that is one of the things that we started focusing on. And as we look at showcasing employee experiences, your authentic storytelling, and of course we also look at talking about Hexagon as an organization. What is that we come together, what is that we offer you as not just an opportunity there, but as a journey there, right? And of course, your virtual tools and your hybrid options, which has actually come to the forefront. The other important thing, Anmol, if you ask me, has been the candidate experience part of it. Because I think that is a differentiator between somebody who has it as an effective practice or not, right? For example. And I think, the talent of today is basically looking at a lot of mix of these with a nice work-life balance thing with respect to, your policies or the benefits and, things like that. So there's a lot of emphasis on the candidate experience part also. Right. And then the last 2 years, even more so, it's a lot more amplified, right? From, the reach out to their interview experience, to the entire onboarding experience and, things like that. And then we do also, a survey post onboarding, just to understand, just to keep a pulse of how do they feel after they coming into the organization. And then we take the survey feedback and then see how we can actually kind of realign and make our entire candidate experience a lot more better, right? And of course, everything around your decision making is driven by your data. So there's a lot of focus on your the metrics and analytics, and are we looking at the right places, what is going wrong, and things like that. This has always been there, but I think even more relevant in as we speak about the other variables coming into the picture. So from a talent acquisition perspective, I think this is what has actually helped in my perspective, my experience is that by staying agile, and then because the recruiters or the recruitment team is basically the ears to the external world, you have your presence on the ground, what is happening. So be agile, and being agile for us has actually helped us. And then I think as we evolve, it's a continuous process of improvement, adaptation as we are looking at both evolving needs of the organization and also the talent market, right?
Yeah.
Sense. Yeah.
So absolutely, these are important points to consider, Manoj, and thank you so much for sharing your valuable perspective with us today. And it's been a pleasure having you on this show. And for our viewers, let's continue to learn and grow together. And don't forget to tune in to the next episode of We Talk Talent series. Have a fantastic day ahead. Thank you.